First contact. The signal arrived on a Tuesday. Dr. Sarah Chen was halfway through her morning coffee when the arrays at SETI picked up the anomaly. At first, she dismissed it as another pulsar emission, or perhaps some exotic astronomical phenomenon. But as she studied the pattern, her hands began to tremble. This was different. The signal repeated with precise mathematical intervals, yet contained variations that couldn't be explained by any natural process. "Dr. Harrison," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "You need to see this." James Harrison had been studying potential extraterrestrial signals for over 3 decades. He'd seen countless false positives and had learned to temper his excitement. But as he looked at the data streaming across Sarah's monitor, his weathered face broke into an expression of wonder. "It's artificially generated," he whispered. "No doubt about it." Within hours, every major radio telescope on Earth was pointed toward the signal's origin. The pattern continued, unchanging in its mathematical precision, but growing in complexity. It wasn't just a beacon, it was a message. Teams of cryptographers and linguists from around the world joined the effort to decode it. The signal contained embedded patterns that seemed to reference basic mathematical constants, pi, e, the fine structure constant. But beyond these universal touchstones, the message remained impenetrable. Months passed. The world's most advanced AI systems processed the signal continuously, searching for patterns that human minds might have missed. They found nothing new. The aliens' method of encoding information seemed to defy conventional analysis. Then came the breakthrough from an unexpected source. Maya Patel was a graduate student in music theory at Berkeley. She had been following the news about the signal with casual interest, until one day she noticed something familiar about the pattern variations. They reminded her of something she'd studied in ethnomusicology, the way different cultures structured their musical scales. She reached out to the SETI team with a novel suggestion. What if they analyzed the signal not as a mathematical or linguistic construct, but as a form of music? Initially, her idea was met with skepticism, but desperate for new approaches, the team agreed to let her examine the data. Maya worked with audio engineers to convert the signal's patterns into sound frequencies. What emerged was astounding. A complex melody that seemed to fold in on itself, creating harmonies that shouldn't have been possible with traditional musical theory. "It's not just music," Maya explained to the team. "It's a new way of thinking about information. The aliens aren't using binary or digital encoding. They're using harmonic relationships. The message is in the spaces between the notes." This insight proved to be the key. Once they began thinking of the signal as an intricate musical composition, patterns emerged that had been invisible before. The message contained information about its senders, a species called the harmonious, who communicated through complex wave interactions that humans might interpret as music. But there was more. The message was a test, designed to identify species capable of making the conceptual leap needed to understand it. The harmonious had sent similar signals to thousands of star systems. Earth was the first to respond. "It's remarkable," Dr. Harrison said during a press conference. "They specifically designed this message to be undecipherable by conventional computing or mathematical analysis. They wanted to find species that could think laterally, who could approach problems from completely unexpected angles." The implications were staggering. Humanity had passed a test they hadn't known they were taking, simply because one graduate student dared to think differently about the problem. The second part of the message contained coordinates for a meeting point, along with a time frame. 1 Earth year to prepare. The harmonious wanted to meet the species that had managed to understand their musical mathematics. As humanity began to prepare for its first extraterrestrial contact, debates raged about what this discovery meant. Some feared it was a trap, while others saw it as humanity's greatest opportunity. But one thing was clear: humans had demonstrated something unique in their ability to solve this puzzle. "We've always assumed advanced aliens would communicate through mathematics or physics," Dr. Chen reflected. "But these beings chose art, chose music, as their universal language. And it took human creativity, our ability to draw connections between seemingly unrelated fields, to understand them. The discovery sparked a renaissance in interdisciplinary research. Scientists began collaborating with artists, musicians with mathematicians, searching for new ways to understand the universe through the lens of harmony and resonance. As the year of preparation began, humanity found itself facing not just the prospect of meeting an alien civilization, but of fundamentally reconsidering what intelligence meant. The Harmonious had shown them that true advancement wasn't just about computational power or technological sophistication. It was about the ability to think beyond conventional boundaries. Maya Patel, the graduate student who had changed humanity's understanding of the cosmos, put it best. "We've been looking at the stars through telescopes for centuries. Maybe it's time we started listening to them instead." The countdown to contact had begun, and humanity had already learned its first lesson. Sometimes the greatest discoveries come not from looking harder, but from looking differently. The neural puzzle. The meeting point was a space station orbiting Jupiter's moon Europa. It took humanity's best minds and resources to construct it within the year-long deadline, but they managed it, barely. The station, named Harmony 1, gleamed against the vastness of space, a testament to what humans could achieve when united in purpose. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck, watching the approaching ship of the Harmonious. It defied conventional spacecraft design. Instead of harsh angles and visible propulsion systems, it moved like a living thing, its outer hull rippling with patterns that seemed to bend light itself. "It's beautiful," Maya whispered beside her. The young musicologist had earned her place on the first contact team, her insight into the original signal making her invaluable. "The patterns, they're singing." She was right. The ship's hull movements created subtle vibrations that, when processed through the station's sensors, produced haunting melodies. It was their way of announcing themselves, a greeting written in harmonics. The Harmonious themselves were equally extraordinary. They appeared as crystalline beings of pure light, their forms shifting and flowing like aurora borealis given consciousness. They communicated through modulated frequencies that the station's computers translated into human language. "We welcome the species of insight," they transmitted. "You who heard the music and the mathematics." But what followed wasn't the diplomatic exchange everyone had expected. Instead, the Harmonious presented humanity with a challenge, what they called the neural puzzle. "All species we encounter must be evaluated," they explained, "to determine their place in the galactic community." They manifested a device in the station's main chamber, a crystalline structure that pulsed with inner light. It projected a three-dimensional maze of energy patterns, each more complex than the last. The goal seemed simple: navigate through the patterns to reach the center. But there was a catch. The puzzle adapts to each species' neural architecture, the Harmonious explained. It cannot be solved through brute force computation or traditional logic. It requires understanding. Teams of Earth's brightest minds attempted the puzzle. Mathematicians tried to decode its patterns. Computer scientists attempted to map its variations. Physicists studied its energy configurations. All failed. The Harmonious watched these attempts with what seemed like disappointment. They had hoped for more from the species that had decoded their musical message. Then Dr. Harrison noticed something odd. During each attempt, the puzzle's patterns seemed to respond to the emotional states of those trying to solve it. Frustration caused it to become more complex, while calm consideration made certain paths clearer. "It's not just a test of intelligence," he realized. "It's testing our ability to adapt our thinking itself." This insight led to a radical approach. Instead of sending their most analytical minds to attempt the puzzle, they assembled a different kind of team. A child psychologist, a meditation expert, an interpretive dancer, and a quantum physicist with synesthesia. People who experienced the world in unique and interconnected ways. The new team approached the puzzle not as a problem to be solved, but as an experience to be understood. The meditation expert helped them maintain emotional equilibrium. The dancer interpreted the energy patterns as choreography, seeing paths that others had missed. The physicist's ability to perceive quantum states as colors revealed hidden connections. And the child psychologist brought perhaps the most crucial insight. "We're thinking too rigidly," she said. "Children don't solve problems by following established rules. They experiment, they play, they imagine new possibilities." Taking this approach, the team began to make progress. They moved through the puzzle not by analyzing it, but by harmonizing with it. They learned to feel the rhythms of its changes, to anticipate its shifts not through calculation, but through intuition. The Harmonious observed with growing interest. This was something new. Other species had attempted to conquer the puzzle through technology or mathematics. Humans were the first to try to understand it. When the team finally reached the center, the crystalline structure erupted in a symphony of light and sound. The Harmonious themselves seemed to pulse with excitement. "You continue to surprise us," they transmitted. "Most species attempt to impose their understanding upon the puzzle. You chose to let the puzzle teach you instead." But this was only the beginning. The neural puzzle, they revealed, was more than a test. It was a key. By solving it in their unique way, humanity had unlocked access to knowledge and technologies beyond their imagination. But more importantly, they had demonstrated a quality the Harmonious valued above all others: the ability to transcend their own preconceptions. As the team celebrated their success, Dr. Chen realized something profound. The true puzzle hadn't been the crystalline maze at all. It had been figuring out that they needed to abandon traditional problem-solving altogether. The Harmonious had one final revelation to share. "Your species is young," they transmitted, "but you possess something rare: the ability to change how you think. This is why we sought you out. This is why we have much to learn from each other." The neural puzzle marked humanity's first step into a larger universe. But it wouldn't be the last test they would face, or the hardest lesson they would have to learn. Breaking convention. The knowledge shared by the Harmonious transformed human understanding of the universe, but it came with an unexpected price. As humanity began to grasp concepts beyond their previous comprehension, they discovered they weren't alone in the galactic community, and not everyone welcomed their arrival. The Consortium, a coalition of advanced species, demanded humanity undergo their standardized evaluation before being granted wider access to galactic society. Unlike the Harmonious musical message or the neural puzzle, the Consortium's test was ruthlessly conventional: solve an engineering challenge that had stumped their finest minds for centuries. The challenge seemed impossible: create a stable wormhole using only the basic elements found in a typical solar system. The Consortium's most advanced civilizations had tried for millennia, using increasingly powerful quantum computers and exotic materials. None had succeeded. "This is different from the previous tests," Maya observed, studying the technical specifications. "The Harmonious wanted us to think differently. The Consortium wants us to think like them." Dr. Chen agreed. "They're testing our technological advancement, not our adaptability. They expect us to fail." But humanity had learned from their experience with the neural puzzle. Instead of attacking the problem head-on, they approached it from an entirely unexpected angle. If the conventional solution hadn't worked for advanced civilizations with far superior technology, perhaps the solution lay in unconventional thinking. A team of diverse specialists was assembled. Theoretical physicists, yes, but also marine biologists, architectural engineers, and even a group of indigenous Australian Dreamtime storytellers. The goal wasn't to solve the problem with brute force or advanced technology, but to find a solution that no one had considered before. The breakthrough came from an unlikely source. Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a marine biologist studying deep-sea creatures, noticed something interesting about the way certain jellyfish created stable vortices in water to trap their prey. The patterns were surprisingly similar to the theoretical models of wormhole formation. "Look at how they use minimal energy," she explained, showing recordings of the jellyfish. "They don't force the vortex into existence. They manipulate existing currents to create it naturally. This observation led to a radical new approach. Instead of trying to tear a hole in space-time through sheer force, what if they could persuade space-time to fold itself? The team began studying natural phenomena that created self-sustaining patterns, whirlpools, magnetic fields, even the spiral formation of galaxies. The indigenous storytellers contributed another crucial insight. Their traditional understanding of space and time as interconnected, flowing elements rather than rigid dimensions aligned surprisingly well with some of the most advanced theories in quantum mechanics. The ancestors knew that the path between 2 points isn't always a straight line, one elder explained. Sometimes you have to sing the way into existence. Combining these diverse perspectives, the team developed a revolutionary approach. Rather than building massive energy generators to punch through space-time, they designed a network of smaller devices that would work in harmony, like the jellyfish's tentacles, to create resonant patterns in the quantum field. The consortium observers watched with a mixture of confusion and dismissal as humans began positioning simple devices throughout their solar system. The technology seemed primitive by their standards. No exotic materials, no massive energy arrays, just carefully placed instruments that seemed to do very little. Then, on a precise astronomical alignment, the network activated. The devices began generating patterns of gravitational waves that built upon each other, like ripples in a pond combining to form larger waves. The resonance grew stronger, each wave reinforcing the others, until something extraordinary happened. Space-time began to fold, not through brute force, but through careful manipulation of natural cosmic rhythms. A stable wormhole formed, using less energy than anyone had thought possible. The consortium representatives were stunned. "This is impossible," they transmitted. "Your technology is primitive. You cannot have succeeded where we failed." "Perhaps," Dr. Chen responded. "That's exactly why we succeeded. We couldn't rely on advanced technology, so we had to find another way." The implications went far beyond the creation of a single wormhole. Humanity had demonstrated that the most advanced solution wasn't always the best one. Sometimes, understanding and working with natural principles could achieve what brute force technology could not. The Harmonious, who had been watching the proceedings with interest, seemed pleased but not surprised. "This is why we sought you out," they communicated. "You see connections that others miss. You find harmony where others seek only power." The consortium's evaluation ended in unprecedented fashion. They couldn't deny humanity's success, but they also couldn't fully comprehend how it had been achieved. It challenged their fundamental assumptions about technological progress and species advancement. As news of humanity's achievements spread through the galactic community, it sparked intense debate. Some species saw it as a threat to the established order. Others recognized it as an opportunity to learn new ways of thinking. Maya, watching the wormhole's gentle shimmer, summed it up best. "We didn't just solve their problem. We showed them there was another way to look at it entirely." Maybe that's humanity's real gift to the galaxy, not the solutions we find, but the new questions we make others ask. The success had proven something important. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their technology or their intelligence, but in their ability to combine different ways of thinking to see solutions that others missed. It was a lesson that would serve them well in the challenges to come. The paradigm shift. Humanity's unconventional solution to the wormhole challenge had far-reaching consequences throughout the galactic community. The consortium's carefully ordered hierarchy of civilizations, based on technological advancement and computational capability, began to show cracks. Species that had been deemed primitive were suddenly being viewed in a new light. Dr. Sarah Chen found herself addressing the Grand Assembly, a gathering of representatives from every known spacefaring civilization. The massive chamber, designed to accommodate beings of all forms and environments, hummed with translation fields and atmospheric bubbles. "The human approach to problem-solving isn't superior," she explained to the assembled delegates. "It's just different. We succeeded not because we were smarter or more advanced, but because we were willing to look beyond established methods. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of transmitted responses. Some species argued that humanity's success was a fluke. Others demanded access to this new way of thinking. The consortium representatives maintained their rigid stance that progress could only be measured through technological advancement. But the Harmonious had been busy. During humanity's wormhole experiment, they had been studying how humans approached problems. They now presented their findings to the assembly. Humans possess a unique neural architecture. They transmitted. Their minds form connections between seemingly unrelated concepts. What we first saw as chaos, we now recognize as a form of quantum computing. But organic, unpredictable, creative. This revelation sparked intense interest across the galaxy. Research teams from various species began arriving at Earth, not to study human technology, but to study human thinking. They were particularly fascinated by human art, music, and storytelling, activities that many advanced civilizations had abandoned as inefficient. Maya Patel found herself teaching alien scientists about human music theory. Every culture on Earth has its own way of making music, she explained. Each represents a different way of organizing sound, of finding patterns in what others might hear as noise. It's not just about entertainment. It's about seeing the world through a different lens. The impact of these exchanges went both ways. As humans learned about advanced alien technologies, they applied their unique perspective to find new applications that the original inventors hadn't considered. Simple tools were combined in novel ways, creating solutions that were both elegant and accessible to less advanced species. Dr. Harrison led a project that combined human intuitive thinking with alien quantum computing. The result was a new form of problem-solving interface that could adapt to any species' natural way of thinking. Problems could be visualized, felt, or even experienced as music, allowing solutions to emerge through whatever method worked best for each individual or species. But not everyone welcomed these changes. A faction within the consortium, led by species who had invested heavily in conventional technological development, saw humanity's influence as a threat to their power structure. They argued that accepting primitive solutions would slow down galactic progress. The debate came to a head when a crisis emerged in a distant sector of the galaxy. A chain reaction of artificial wormholes, created using conventional high-energy methods, threatened to tear apart the fabric of space-time. The consortium's most advanced technologies couldn't stop the cascade failure. In desperation, they turned to the human team. Dr. Chen and her colleagues approached the problem with their characteristic unconventional thinking. Instead of trying to force the wormholes closed, they adapted their resonance-based method to work with the natural fluctuations of space-time. Think of it like a wave, Maya explained to the emergency response team. If you try to stop it by building a wall, the energy has nowhere to go. But if you guide it, let it dissipate naturally. She demonstrated with a simple musical tone, showing how it could be guided into harmony rather than blocked. The solution worked. The wormhole cascade was gradually stabilized, not through brute force, but through careful manipulation of cosmic harmonics. The crisis had been averted, and in the process, humanity had proven that their approach wasn't just a curiosity. It could solve problems that conventional methods couldn't. This success marked a turning point in galactic society. The rigid hierarchy of the consortium began to give way to a more nuanced understanding of advancement. Species that had been dismissed as primitive were reevaluated, their unique perspectives suddenly valued. We've been measuring progress on a single axis, Dr. Chen told the assembly in a follow-up session. But the universe isn't linear. Every species, every culture, every way of thinking adds another dimension to our understanding. The Harmonious, watching these developments, seemed satisfied. This is evolution, they transmitted. Not just of technology, but of thought itself. The galaxy is learning what humans knew instinctively, that true progress comes not from following a single path, but from exploring all possible paths. As the galactic community began to adapt to this new paradigm, humanity found itself in an unexpected position. They weren't the most technologically advanced species, but they had become important teachers, showing others how to think beyond their established limits. It was the beginning of a new era in galactic civilization, one where progress wasn't measured by the power of your technology, but by the flexibility of your thinking.